Imagine a king so wise that rulers from distant lands traveled for months just to hear him speak. A king who presided over an era of peace, unimaginable wealth, and unmatched glory. A king who built the greatest temple the world had ever seen, a marvel of gold and cedar. This was King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. But his story isn't just about wisdom and riches. It's also a powerful, timeless warning. So, who was Solomon? He was the son of the legendary King David, chosen by God to inherit the throne of Israel. When Solomon became king, he was young and felt inexperienced. Yet, he was entrusted with the United Kingdom at the very height of its strength and influence. The stage was set for a reign unlike any other, and it all began with a simple, yet profound, choice. One night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream. The offer was incredible, a divine blank check. God said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Now, think about that. What would you ask for? Many kings would ask for power, for victory in battle, for a long life, or for the downfall of their enemies. But Solomon's request was different. It revealed the heart of a true leader. Humbly, Solomon replied to God, saying he felt like a child, unsure how to lead such a great and numerous people. He didn't ask for personal gain. Instead, he asked for a discerning heart, the ability to judge his people fairly and to distinguish between right and wrong. In short, he asked for wisdom. And God was pleased, because Solomon didn't ask for wealth, or a long life, or the death of his enemies. God not only granted his request, but gave him so much more. God gave him wisdom beyond measure, a mind so sharp and insightful that no one before or after him could compare. And on top of that, God also gave him what he did and asked for, riches and honor far surpassing any other king. Solomon's wisdom quickly became legendary, and stories of his incredible judgment spread far and wide. The most famous example, of course, is the case of the two women who both claimed to be the mother of the same baby. They came before the king, each insisting the child was hers. How could anyone know the truth? Solomon, in his divine wisdom, proposed a shocking solution. He ordered a soldier to take a sword and cut the living child in two, giving half to each woman. Immediately, one woman cried out, begging the king not to harm the boy, saying she would rather give him to the other woman than see him die. The other woman coldly agreed, saying, "Neither I nor you shall have him. Cut him in two." In that moment, Solomon knew. He pointed to the first woman, the one who showed mercy, and declared, "Give her the living child. Do not kill him. She is his mother." This incredible display of insight solidified Solomon's reputation across the nations. People understood that this wasn't just human cleverness. This was wisdom given by God. Under Solomon's wise rule, the kingdom of Israel experienced a golden age of peace and prosperity like never before. It was a time of unprecedented abundance. Gold flowed into Jerusalem in such quantities that silver became as common as stones in the street. Solomon was not just a wise judge, but a master builder and a savvy statesman. He built magnificent palaces, fortified cities, and established lucrative trade routes that brought immense wealth into the kingdom. His fame was so great that kings and queens from all over the world traveled to Jerusalem bearing lavish gifts. They came to witness his wisdom firsthand, including the famous Queen of Sheba. She arrived with a great caravan, testing Solomon with hard, riddling questions. But he answered every one she left, completely amazed, not just by his profound wisdom, but by the sheer magnificence and order of his kingdom. Admitting that the reality far exceeded the incredible stories she had heard, but perhaps Solomon's greatest and most enduring achievement was the construction of the Temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. This was a project his father, David, had dreamed of, but was not permitted to build. Solomon fulfilled that dream. For 7 years, the finest craftsmen worked with the most precious materials on earth. Cedar wood from Lebanon, pure gold overlaying everything, and countless precious stones. It was a structure of breathtaking beauty, built to be the dwelling place for the God of Israel. When the temple was finally completed and dedicated, a truly holy moment occurred. Solomon prayed before all of Israel, and the glory of the Lord descended and filled the temple like a radiant cloud, so powerfully that the priests could not even stand to perform their duties. It was a sign of God's presence and pleasure, a sacred event the likes of which have not been repeated since. At this point, Solomon had it all: divine wisdom, immense wealth, a peaceful kingdom, and God's favor. His story should have ended right there, a perfect tale of a blessed king. But it doesn't. Solomon's story takes a dark and tragic turn. Despite being the wisest man on earth, Solomon began to disobey the very God who had given him everything. God had commanded the kings of Israel not to marry many wives, especially from foreign nations who worshipped other gods, for they would surely turn their hearts away. Solomon ignored this command. He married hundreds of women, wives, and concubines from surrounding nations, who brought their foreign customs and their false gods with them. Over time, these influences led his heart astray. He, the builder of God's own temple, began to tolerate and even participate in idol worship. He built altars and high places for his wives' false gods, right there in the land dedicated to the one true God. The wisest man on earth slowly, foolishly, drifted away from his divine benefactor. Because of Solomon's blatant disobedience, God's judgment came. God appeared to him again, not with a gift, but with a sentence. He declared that because Solomon had broken his covenant, the kingdom would be torn away from his family. For the sake of his father David, God would not do it during Solomon's lifetime. Solomon would die a king, but his son would inherit a fractured nation, losing most of the kingdom to another. The very wisdom that made Solomon great could not protect him when his obedience was lost. And this brings us to the powerful lesson from Solomon's life, a truth that echoes through the ages. Wisdom without obedience leads to ruin. Success without faith leads to emptiness. Solomon had more wisdom, wealth, and power than anyone could dream of. But it wasn't enough to save him from his own choices. In his later years, reflecting on his life of triumphs and failures, Solomon himself wrote the conclusion to his own story. In the book of Ecclesiastes, he sums it all up: fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of mankind. The wisest king in history learned, perhaps too late, that absolutely nothing in this world matters without a right relationship with God. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it. Because the stories in the Bible aren't just ancient history. They are a living message for each and every one of us today. Thanks for watching.